Hey guys, welcome on out to another episode of Honolulu's Hangout. This time we're hanging out with Sagel. You may recognize Sagel from the Twitch chat over at Honolulu Gamer, but Sagel, did you know, is the best Need for Speed player in the world? We get into that. We get into a little bit about the Mixer shutdown, Mixer versus Twitch, and of course, wouldn't be complete without a lot of wrestling talk, so look forward to that. Hey, if you like this episode, make sure you share it. Give it a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. It helps a lot spread the word. And make sure you go pop on over to Twitch, stop by a Honolulu Gamer stream, say hello, and of course you can also find a rare Sagel pop-up stream, so make sure you give him a follow as well. All right, hope you enjoy this week's episode. Hey, so welcome on in to another episode of Honolulu's Hangout. This time, we're hanging out with the one, the only, Sagel. Let's give it up for Sagel, everybody. Wow. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, I'm excited to be here on the HG podcast after being in the chat faceless for so long.
In the chat. Well, so look, so Sagel,
with no voice.
no voice. Sagel his voice could not be heard. So Sagel came in, was one of the first followers back on Mixer, back a few months ago, or well, several months ago now, when started streaming. So Sagel and I have gotten to know each other a little bit, and Sagel has some crazy stories that he needs to tell you guys, and I'm so excited. But first, Sagel, before we get into the stories, I've got 5 questions, okay, related to your favorite car brand, Subaru. And we're going to ask them just dispersed throughout the show, just to spice it up a little bit. So are you ready for this first one?
We'll see.
Well, you're going to be ready. I looked these up online, so Subaru quiz trivia is like a popular thing.
I'm going to get them all wrong.
No. Here we go. So what is the name of the infotainment system currently in Subaru?
Oh, I think it's Starlink.
Oh, ding, 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 ding. Congratulations, Sagel, for the Starlink. Wow. See, I told you, Sagel knew his cars. So speaking of cars, you guys are going to love this. Sagel, please just tell me about the time you were crowned the Need for Speed best player in the world.
Yeah, I mean, why didn't you start my intro with that? I mean, that's a pretty big accomplishment, right?
Got to bury the lead. This is how it's taught.
You start with the big title, the simple title. The story behind it kind of dilutes the meaning, but it is more interesting. So, yeah, I guess this was 2010, and I was really into cars probably more than ever at that point. So I basically had been in like the aftermarket auto parts business as a result of my interest in like the whole Fast and Furious craze kind of thing. So like from '04 to 11, I was in that business. So like 10 was close to the end there, but like also kind of peak in a lot of ways. So, you know, I was still like really heavy into the whole drifting thing and like all the Japanese import cars and stuff. So, I was browsing the internet one day and I went to the NOS Energy site to see Chris Forsberg's drift video. So like he would do all these cool drift videos, kind of like oh, I'm completely blanking. What's the one, the Monster Energy guy who does the really crazy drift videos?
I don't know. I just drink Monster Energy. Look, I just drink it. Okay. I don't know the people. I don't know the people behind Monster Energy.
So yeah, they would do like these big productions of like Gymkhana, Ken Block. That's it. Ken Block's Gymkhana videos. So like those were amazing videos. But like Chris Forsberg on the NOS Energy side was doing something similar. So like he would just have probably more like a montage of his drift competitions and stuff. But it was just really cool. So like I went and checked this video out, and apparently while I was watching the video or before I watched it, I entered my name and email address and didn't think twice about it until fast forward however long it was, a couple months, and I'm like literally sitting at the Sonic drive-in where you have to like order from your car window and wait for them to bring the food to your window.
Classic.
Yeah, and but they have like a happy hour that starts at 3, I think. So I had gone there for a slushie, and it was like $2.50. So like obviously I'm gonna sit there for 10 more minutes and save a buck on my slushie. So I'm like sitting there playing with the radio, whatever. It's like 2010. So whatever you did in 2010 while you're wasting time. And I got a phone call from an unknown number. Again, in 2010, you'd actually answer that. So I answered it, and I was informed that I had won a contest, and they're like, um, "Is this so and so? Did you enter this contest on whatever date?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And they're like, "Well, you won this NOS energy drink contest. Like, did you go to the website and like watch this drift video and stuff?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I think I remember seeing that. It was a pretty cool video." And the lady was like, "Well, when you did that, you entered this contest, and the prize was a trip to the E3 Expo in Los Angeles, like all expenses paid. And while there, you would be part of a Need for Speed competition amongst the other winners of the contest, and whoever won that Need for Speed competition would actually win a like Chris Forsberg customized 370Z." So I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." So I was kind of convinced it was legitimate as a result of that phone call, but then they sent along the paperwork. Some company called ePrize or ePrize Fulfillment or something did it, and they're like, I guess they do like lots of the big promotions. So it was pretty easy to get convinced this is like a real thing. So yeah, I like signed up for it, and it was kind of funny because uh, the deal is like you and a friend or you and a significant other or whatever can go on this trip, and this was like, oh man, it was probably the middle of summer. Um, I don't even remember when E3 Expo was, but
Well, yeah, it's
the
usually
thing
like
was,
in June, so I think usually
yeah,
around
I think
June.
it
So
was like June.
yeah,
So like I actually had a hard time getting a friend though who could go with me, and like everybody had other things going on, like they had just started a job or they were on vacation, and I'm like, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. What are you guys doing? And so like it was pretty fun because I ended up going down the list of like people I went to high school with, and I'm like, I haven't talked to this person since like high school, but I remember we were good friends, so like let's see. So I end up reconnecting with this guy from high school who was like not doing anything at the time, and he was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." So so he ended up going with me, and they booked us for the cross country flight and the hotel. The hotel they put us up in was the Beverly Hilton, which was pretty sweet, like Beverly Hills, like
yeah,
retro almost hotel or whatever. I don't know if you'd call it like famous or whatever, but it was, I guess it's like a symbol of, I don't know, it's like iconic or whatever. So so it's pretty cool just to even be there. And then they would like shuttle us to the competition. And that's kind of like once we got there and everything. Well, I guess I shouldn't skip that part because getting there, something interesting happened too. So um I'm a wrestling fan, probably clear from the chats, but also something I share with
clear
Pete
from
himself.
this, clear from this gift
There
right
you go.
here, the
Yeah, I've
Sagal
got
World Championship. That's what I call it now.
so I've got like a mirror going on here where I've got like the AEW
Yeah,
belt, the
right,
kids
right.
one, and the WWE belt, the plastic one.
Yeah, yeah. Hey,
And then
hey. Nobody would know. Don't sell your. It's the real one. It's real.
and but yeah, HG has been crowned like triple WWE crown champion
Triple
or something.
crown. There
So
we go. Boom.
pretty nice. So so yeah, like I was actually kind of conflicted because this flight was supposed to leave on a Tuesday morning, but that Monday night was WWE Raw in my hometown,
Of course.
and I had bought tickets, and there was no way I wasn't going to that.
Can't miss it.
So like the flight was gonna leave at like 7 a.m. and I'm like, I don't care. I'm definitely going to Raw that night. So I went to Raw. My friend who was going on the trip with me went to it, and he wasn't a wrestling fan, which always makes it awkward because the whole time they're like, "What is going on? This is
Oh,
so
I bet.
stupid."
I bet. Yeah.
But anyway, it was pretty fun to kind of kick off the trip with that, and then the next morning we end up at the airport, and because it was the next morning at the airport, there were a ton of WWE superstars there, just
Right.
like roaming around in the airport. So I saw the Miz and Maurice just like sitting at a table eating breakfast, and like he had won the U.S. championship the night before. So I was like a total mark. I walked up to him and I'm like stuttering and like high pitched, and I'm like, "Oh, Miz, congratulations on winning the U.S. championship last night." And he was like, "Oh, thanks."
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was like so nervous. I was like, "Can you sign this for me?" And like pulled out a business card or something
A
and like he
business,
signed
of
it for me.
course. Yeah.
And
Whatever you
it's
have.
like
Yeah.
the only thing I had. And then I was like so nervous I'm walking away and I like put my hand out on Maurice's suitcase handle. Like her suitcase, I don't know, like I mentally thought it was mine or something. Like I wasn't thinking straight. And like for a split second, I almost like walked off with her suitcase. And
Oh,
like I could see the Miz was like ready to jump up and I'm like, oh wait, sorry, accident.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so but I was like totally starstruck, which is hilarious in retrospect. But I mean, I'm still a fan of the Miz, but like I wouldn't be that starstruck having grown up 10 years since then.
Oh,
But
right. Yeah, I didn't even think 10
it was
years ago. Wow. Yeah.
so like we get on the plane, we go out there, and honestly, like that was the worst plane ride of my life because I had gotten like no sleep and my like immune system or something was out of whack, like my sinuses were out of whack or something. So like the pressure from the flight was giving me like a crazy headache. Um
Yes.
and I remember that distinctly. And I was like, I'd never had that before. The flight attendants were like, yeah, it's kind of normal, don't worry about it. And I'm like, all right. So we get there and that's where, yeah, we go to the Beverly Hilton and everything. And it starts to really amp up because you start to see these other folks kind of roll in, and you're kind of like, this looks like somebody who might have won this contest.
Right. Yeah,
Because
yeah,
they
yeah.
seem just as out of place as I did. So it's like you kind of keep your eye on these people, and the next thing you know, the next morning, you're all getting on a shuttle together, and it's like, oh yeah, these are the people who won the contest, and they're my competition. It's like you start scoping them out,
Right.
and trying to judge like, yeah, there's no way this person's ever played a video game in their life, and there's another person, and it's like, yeah, this guy is probably pretty good. So you start trying to strategize and stuff. Um, and everybody was super friendly, and everybody was excited to be there. But it was interesting. There were probably three. I think there were six, five or six winners, but like three of them, I think, were like habitual contest winners. So like they said that they're retired and like all day they just enter contests and they win tons of them. So like they get all these trips, and that like blew my mind because I mean I didn't even remember entering the contest, much less like actually crossing my fingers to win it. And they're
Right.
like throwing all these all these entries like knowing they're gonna win something eventually. But so yeah, we end up going to the E3 Expo, and it was kind of crazy because like shortly after walking in, I'm walking down the hall, and the Miz is walking down the other direction. It
No
turns out he
way.
was on the same flight and going to the same place as me.
Oh,
Um,
what?
he totally didn't pay me any attention, which is probably better than not. But like I
Right.
had just met him like the previous day. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So so yeah, we like it was awesome because we got to browse through the E3 Expo with like special passes. Like you normally have to be pressed to go there, which I
Well,
guess
back then.
HG can qualify for. Oh, is it public now?
Yeah, I think. Well, it doesn't happen. It didn't happen this year, but yeah, they kind of changed
Oh
it
yeah.
into like a fan event too because people stopped caring. Like E3 has
Oh
been
really?
irrelevant for the last few years, pretty much. So,
Oh
I mean,
man.
Nintendo hasn't had a big showcase at E3 in like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, and Sony pulled out, right?
Sony wasn't. Well, yeah, it didn't happen this, but 2019 Sony wasn't there, and like even 2018 Sony was awful. Like their press conference was
That's
like
crazy.
it was like this weird thing where they like moved from four different like live experiences and it was just basically about like games that had already been announced. There was like no big news. It was I yeah, E3 hasn't been relevant. But anyway, at the time it was
Wow.
only press. So
Well, I like got my experience and got out of there and like never checked on E3 again, so it's kind of disheartening to hear
yeah, yeah,
what
you had
happened.
such a great time a decade ago and now it's dead.
Like my memories are like so much better than it actually is now. It's like how everything is.
Right.
But so like yeah, walking around it was mind blowing though, because like you had that was the year Tron Legacy came out, and like they had a full on like what do you call it, like light bike or whatever they call them, and it's like a full scale model of one of those Tron motorcycles, and there was like a, a Pagani Zonda from some promoting some game, and like there's all this really high quality like either statues or like cosplayers walking around uh paid to promote the game or whatever. But like I mean this is professional level stuff. It's like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was crazy. Like it was so far beyond what I expected as far as the quality of everything. And then of course you got to interact with all these new games and like see all these new announcements and everything. But like there's just so much fanfare around all of it I mean, and they would put on stunts. Like one of them I remember kind of freaked me out. Like there was some zombie game, and the stunt was like they had a cage with like zombie actors inside of it, and they would do this thing like periodically where they would start freaking out and like the zombies would escape and they'd like
Oh
run all
no.
around and like terrify everybody. And and there was another game where it was like some, you know, like communist party militia or something was like come marching through, you know, and like promote the game.
Yeah.
And so there's like all these like real life, you know, kind of crossover promotions that they did. So that stuff was pretty cool. But like trying new games was fun. And just a couple memories of that was like my buddy who went, he got in like this giant hamster wheel that was like a
Of course.
VR thing where you can like walk around, and it was funny because like he was trying to maintain his balance and everything. Um, and but it was like they were debuting, you know, new hardware ideas and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then on the side of like new video games, it was pretty funny because our passes, this I guess what I was mentioning a minute ago, our passes said like unlike the other passes that you'd see like media or like um what do you call it, like a staff or like an indication that they're with a certain company or whatever. Ours just said winner.
Oh my
So
gosh, I
like
love it. Do you still
our
have it? Do you
credentials
still
were
have the
just
pass? Do you
winner.
still have the credentials?
I do.
Of
Yeah,
course, yeah.
yeah.
You
I
couldn't get
mean,
rid of it. I
yeah.
understand.
So like the funny part was we got full access to everything, but like we couldn't be taken seriously by anybody. So like I
Right.
remember going to this one like game demo. It was for uh I think it was actually for Fear 2, and I had
Yes.
played the first Fear game. And I remember sitting in this demo and the guys like unveil it. It was like there were like 20 of us in there. And I wasn't media, but like everybody else in there was media and they're like taking notes. So I'm just like sitting in the back watching and they're like, does anybody have any questions? And I like totally wasted everybody's time and asked this question. I was like, so is this game gonna be like non-linear or is it like a linear path where you like can't like your decisions don't impact the game at all?
Right.
And the
Yeah.
guy did not appreciate that question.
No.
And I'm like, I remembered like thinking, man, that was like, in retrospect, it sounds like I was trying to be a jerk, but like, I actually liked the first game,
Right.
and I was thinking it would be cool if like it was more of a non-linear.
Yeah.
But then I realized that by asking that and getting the no, it just like completely deflated everybody.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like,
Because they would like the answer to be yes, but then yeah, you ruined it.
yeah,
They didn't want that as a talking point. You have you
yeah,
derailed their thing. Hold on. Before we get into the next part where you talk about how you were crowned the Need for Speed champion, we got another Subaru question. Okay. This is true or
okay.
false. True or false. Subaru WRX, which by the way is your ride, I'm told. Subaru
Until
W.
recently.
Oh, okay. Oh, breaking news on the Honolulu Hangout. Subaru WRX is the most ticketed car in America. True or false?
Oh man, that sounds unlikely. I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna say true.
Yes, it is true. Ding, ding, ding. You are now
Wow,
2 for 2. It sounds
crazy.
unlikely. Are you kidding me? I don't
Well, it's
actually
just
know.
like
I
a
don't know anything
volume,
about it. But
like a volume thing. Like how many Honda Accords and Civics are there versus WRXs? But like,
true.
I honestly, I've had three WRXs of different iterations, and I've gotten 2 tickets. So
Yeah, see?
in
That's
those
what it
cars,
is. That's what it is.
so yeah,
All right. So let's get back into E3. So you have wrecked
yeah, yeah,
now the Fear preview, Fear 2 preview. You're walking around E3. You've got the special winner tag on.
yep.
Zombies running around everywhere. We got
I'm
communist wannabes cosplay running
yeah,
through the hall. Your experience,
that's
you don't
right.
know what's happening. You can't get anybody's real attention because your badge is just says winner. Tell me about
Yeah.
the rest of the experience. What happens next?
Well, so like the whole time they're like, I'm like double fisting NOS energy drink because like
Oh,
the thing
right,
is
that's right.
sponsored by NOS Energy, and
Wait,
they're like constantly handing them to me.
at this time were they
Like,
still in the like the big plastic? They're kind of like they look like Nas.
so
Like well, I don't know
great
what you
question.
call this, but
Yeah, like they had the classic like plastic bottle with like the NOS cap,
yeah,
screw
blue and
cap on
orange,
the
right? It was
yeah,
blue
blue
bottle
and
with the
orange,
orange cap.
and
Yeah.
like a mini bottle of the real NOS system. So like
Oh,
they had
interesting.
that still, and then they had the aluminum cans too.
Okay.
But the thing was they were promoting, I guess, like really the core of this promotion was a new flavor. I think it was called cherry vanilla or something.
Of
But
course.
like the cans were burgundy and yellow, and
Oh
um,
yeah, I think I remember those. Yeah.
so they tasted really good too. But yeah, this like prize car had been custom painted to match the can. So like it was burgundy and it had all these yellow decals to like
Oh
match the
sweet.
can. So
Yeah.
you could like hold the can up to the car and it was like color matched. It was pretty that was pretty impressive, like regardless of the fact that the car looks like a NOS energy can.
Hey, you know
But
what?
it was like, man, this is legit. It's
Yeah.
like when else can you say like you have a car that like you can point to another object and say this car was painted to exactly match this object?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it well, and like an obscure object too. That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah. So like they had that thing sitting on display, that car sitting on display, like right in the front lobby of the expo. So like everybody was walking past it,
Yeah.
and they had like a rail of, or what do you call it, like a set of arcade machines set up for the competition for the Need for Speed street competition. So I think it was street, but so like this uh group, again, I think it was 6 people maybe, but they had like 3 or 4 um stations set up. So like it was an elimination style tournament. We couldn't all go at once. So like I got, made the rounds at the expo, got comfortable, like got over the shock factor of everything, and then started thinking seriously about this competition because it was like on the last day or something. So
Right.
like I'm asking all these questions like what's the track gonna be, and like what direction is the track, like is it the reverse version or not, and like what cars do we have to pick, do we have to drive it manual, do we have to pick all wheel drive or rear wheel drive. The guy running the thing, he was like, I don't care about any of that. He's like, just pick whatever you want. And I'm like, oh, so this is like really loose. Okay,
Yeah.
so like we just go in and it's like you're at the arcade, like you sit down beside a stranger, you both put your quarters in. Somebody's gonna pick the track, somebody's gonna pick a car. Like it is what it is. So like that's kind of how it was. It wasn't very structured, like they had very stringent requirements. But the good news was that knowing I was gonna do this competition, I had purchased the game and a steering wheel and stuff, and I had been practicing it for like weeks leading up to the trip. So like I was super confident no matter what the track was going to be, at least I would have been somewhat familiar with it. So, uh, so yeah, like it came time for the competition, and uh, again, the folks who had never played a game before in their life, it was so clear, like they're bumping into walls, driving backwards down the track and everything,
Yeah.
and they're having fun because like they knew they didn't stand a chance. So like they're just having fun with it. So
Right.
like it's just a free trip and like a fun experience. But like the guys who do take it seriously, um, me and I think there was really just one other really strong competitor. We were getting pretty focused and like pretty amped up about it. It's like we had kind of worked our way through the elimination and gotten down to just the two of us, and we went head to head at the same time to determine the winner. And it was awesome because it turned out we were closely matched. So like I made it around the last corner, like right in front of him. So it turned out to be a pretty like cool neck and neck type finish.
Right.
And um, I
That's
remember
awesome.
that last turn. It was like I can't even describe the feeling. It's like just an overwhelming feeling of like don't screw up, don't screw up,
Yeah.
don't
Don't
screw
mess
up.
up.
It's like one mess up on that last corner would have ended it all.
So
So
you won the thing.
so yeah, I won the Need for Speed competition, and then they it from there I was like so lightheaded and like I was so focused on the game. I turn around and it's like instantly camera in your face, and like this girl comes over with a microphone and wants to interview, and like all these people are swarming, and like people are coming from like upstairs looking down to see what's going on and stuff, and I'm like, what is happening? So they're like, you just won the competition, and they announced, they're like, this is the greatest Need for Speed player in the world.
There it is.
And I'm like, I beat like some random guy.
The world. Yeah.
And
That watched a
I'm the
video
greatest.
on your website. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, getting that title was a pretty cool perk,
So what?
unexpected perk.
Um, did you also get the car? What happened with that?
Yeah. So to like wrap up the go home on this, it's like I win, and I'm from South Carolina, and we're in Los Angeles. And when they're
Right.
like, where are you from? And I'm like, SC. They're like, oh, SoCal. And I'm no, like
SoCal, yeah.
South Carolina. So they're like, well, I guess you have two options. You can either drive the car home, or we can ship it to you, but it's going to take a few weeks. And I'm like, it would be pretty fun to drive home, but like
Yeah.
a lot could go wrong and it would take forever. So, and they weren't going to like pay for room and board and stuff. So like
Right.
I would have been on my own. So I'm like, no, it just makes more sense. Like just have them ship the car to me, right? So like but the thing was that's when the logistics of it, like you could tell nobody had gotten that far
Yeah.
thinking about
Yeah.
what was going to happen.
That was the
Like
moment, not the moment
they,
when the tournament wasn't planned and you could do whatever you want. It was until
well,
you
that's
realized.
true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Once the
And
shipping came in, they
yeah,
just thought you were
and
going to
they're
drive it
like,
home. They totally thought whoever won was just going to drive it off the show floor for sure.
yeah, like you're just gonna hop in and drive away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they could get on
And
video. I
like,
mean, how cool of a video would that be? The ending to their little
yeah,
promo video. Uh, Best Need for Speed player in the world gets and drives off the expo floor into the sunset. I mean, hey,
that'd be
that
great.
would have been. But
But
that's not what happened.
well, no, and it's like you realize the consequences of your decision in retrospect. And in retrospect, I would have driven the car home because what ended up happening was they're like, okay, so we're gonna have to basically ship the car back to this dealership, West Covina Nissan, which was like wherever West Covina is in relationship to wherever the Los Angeles like
Sure.
E3 Expo was. It was like pretty far. And I mean, basically to me, it seemed really far because I had to ride the bus from downtown LA to West Covina Nissan,
Sure.
and that was like a forever trip. Like it took forever. I was going through like all these places in California I didn't even know were near where I was, and like, uh, I mean, I'm sure it sounds ridiculous to anybody familiar with the area, but like I'm just driving down the road in a bus and I see like a piece of Disneyland, and I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
are we? And next thing I know, like we finally get there. It took like all day basically on the bus to get there. I get there and like they had like I don't know, like it was like a super long process to sign the paperwork and get everything settled, and there was no plan to get me home. So like I ended up having, and the bus doesn't go that way. Like it would drop you off, but like it wouldn't pick you up.
Sure. Oh
So
my gosh.
I had to like rent a cab, and the cab like took me straight to the airport, I think, because like it wouldn't go to my hotel or something weird. So like it ended up being like took one cab to one place and another cab to my hotel or something,
Oh my gosh.
and like all this just so I could sign the paperwork. Like they couldn't have done that, at the event.
Right.
But it was just kind of a fun adventure though, like it was just all these hoops and hurdles to go through. And while there, the Nissan dealership was you know the people there all wanted to like talk about the car and stuff, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the um yeah, so like I while I'm doing all this though, they basically say to my friend who got the free trip too and everything, like, look, we didn't know you guys were going to win this. Like, we knew somebody was going to win it. We didn't know it was going to be you guys in particular. And basically, since you've decided, or I've decided not to drive the car home, and it's going to take like an extra 2 days to get everything sorted out, we'll pay for me to stay 2 days, but we're not going to pay for the other guy to stay 2 days. So you have to go ahead and fly back home. So my friend ended up like going to the airport by himself and like flying in an airplane by himself
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
home, and like left me alone for an extra 2 days to figure this to like ride the bus around
Oh my gosh.
LA and like get this car thing figured out.
Right.
And like 2 days later it was sorted out and I was flying back home. And I think that's the only time I felt fallen asleep on an airplane. Like I was so exhausted,
Right.
I just passed out like right away. Um, and the car showed up like 2 or 3 weeks later. Unfortunately, they had shipped it on like an open air uh, truck,
Yeah.
but like with a bunch of wrecked cars. So like the car above it was leaking coolant on the like hood the whole time, and it
Okay.
had like peeled paint off of it.
Oh,
And like
what?
the front lip was like cracked from where the guy was like trying to load it on the trailer and like cracked the lip. So like I immediately I had to take it to like a body shop and like they repaired it and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it but then it all was good, and then I enjoyed the car for the summer and then ended up selling it. But had a lot of fun with it for the summer, and that experience, like as a whole, was pretty surreal. Like any one part of it, like just going to the E3 thing, or like just competing in a contest for a car, or whatever. Like any of that alone would have been awesome. But like to have it all come together and then to actually win and all of that, it was pretty wild. And then I guess this is probably the best way to end the story, but it's hilarious. I still get like a kick out of thinking about it. So like I get home, and like I'm still into video games and whatnot, but like I don't know, like maybe a few weeks later, I stroll into my local GameStop, like just normal, like I'm going to get a game,
Yeah.
and I walk in there, and the dude behind the counter is like, "Dude, you're that guy."
No
I'm
way.
like, "What?" And he's like, "You're the guy who won the car." And I'm
You're
like,
the
"What?
guy.
Like, how do you know that?" And he's like, "Dude, you were in Game Informer or whatever their magazine is."
Yeah.
And he like had it on the counter, and he's like flipping through the page, and he's like, "Look, look, look, look,
Look
look."
at this.
And I'm like, nobody told me I was even in this magazine. So there's like this little picture of me in the bottom corner of a page, and I'm like, man, this guy is like the best employee ever. He's like studying the magazine and like remembering faces and
Yeah, yeah.
stuff.
Maybe it was just a big Need for Speed fan, and he was like, I need to know who the
Yeah,
best in
yeah,
the world. Didn't
yeah.
Sagal tell you he's the best in the world? Dude, that's incredible. I love that story so much. That is, of all the video game stories I've ever heard, that's my favorite one. That's my absolute favorite one.
Man,
Well, let me tell you what. We've got three more questions. Why don't we get to number three here? You're 2 for 2 on the
do it.
Subaru trivia. So Subaru came out in the year 2016, and they said that a certain percentage of their cars that were built in the last 12 years were still on the road. So 2004 through 2016, any car built in that time frame was still on the road in 2016. What percentage of Subarus were still on the road?
Oh man,
I'll give it to you if you're like
it
plus minus like 5 or
yeah.
something.
I'm pretty sure it's over 90%. I'm gonna say it's like 92%.
96. I'll give it to you because
90.
again, yeah, well, look, like I said, plus minus 5, which I couldn't actually do plus 5 because that would have been 101. Um, so plus
Yeah.
minus 4, and that still gets it to you. So congratulations, you are a Subaru master. All right, I want to talk for a second about Mixer and streaming and gaming because, as you know, I got my start streaming on Mixer. You were actually, I remember this. You were actually in the first Honolulu stream. You were in the Super Mario Sunshine
Oh
first
yeah,
ever
right.
Honolulu gamer stream. My first time ever playing that game. Number one, and then number two, my first time streaming. So, um, I guess what I want to ask is because you also stream a little bit. You're not like you don't have like you don't have like a regular schedule or anything like that. And you streamed a little bit on Mixer too before the shutdown.
I do
Um,
like pop-up streams, like secret streams.
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
what that's what you call it?
secret.
Yeah.
You got the pop up shop. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to ask you two questions. One is how was because you now watch on Twitch. So how was it on Mixer as a viewer compared to Twitch?
Yeah, I'm glad you bring it up because first off, thanks for the memories because I was trying to remember what the first game was I saw you play and if it was your first stream. So like that tied the loose end up there, and it was also my first time even seeing Super Mario Sunshine. So
Right.
that was pretty fun to
Well, now
watch
we
that.
got the
Um,
remaster coming out, so
and
I'm gonna have to play it again.
oh wow, so yeah, Mixer, like I had never been on Mixer either. So like I never even messed with it. I had messed with Streamlabs and like YouTube or Twitch streaming like very lightly at one point just because I was curious. But like never tried Mixer at all. And so I get in there and I'm like new to Mixer, new to Honolulu Gamer, new to Super Mario Sunshine. And, and the whole experience was awesome. I think everything was really good. And I was trying to get my bearings around all the ways you can interact with the stream. So all of that was great. And then like I hadn't been on Twitch in a long time. So when it came time to migrate because of the Mixer shutdown, um, I was like, oh man, if he goes to Twitch, I'm gonna follow him there. I better figure out what's up with Twitch nowadays. So like I started to look at Twitch again, and I mean that's I guess when I started thinking about the comparison. But I think like the experience of your streams is it was maintained between the two platforms, And I think there's a lot of parallels between the platforms, of course. But I would say like the most noticeable thing is probably that the connection quality and like reliability and lag and stuff is less in Twitch. Probably not noticeable. Whereas in Mixer, I remember I actually remember a stream of yours where I don't know if it was just me, but it was like this funny experience with lag because you were interacting with the stream like you do, and like you got to some point. It might have been that first one, Super Mario Sunshine. There were like
Yeah,
different
yeah,
colored jet skis, and you
yep,
were picking like the color of a jet ski. And you're like, hey, what color should I pick, everybody? And like you were waiting and waiting and waiting because like people hadn't even seen you ask that
right,
until you were like far past. And I remember thinking to myself, man, that's like a tricky thing for a streamer to deal with. Like when
right,
you have to think what I'm saying is going to pop up in the chat 30 seconds from now.
right.
Like how do you be interactive? And like I think that's one of the biggest differences on Twitch because on Twitch, I've never noticed you struggle with that. Maybe you've gotten better at accounting for it, but like their lag is less too. So like
Yeah, which is
it's all
weird.
around a better experience.
It's weird because Mixer's big thing was that they were supposed to have the FTL or whatever it was called, the low latency, like near no delay stream. And
Oh, really?
I know for sure that like some of my interactions were like within a couple seconds of me saying something. But then I also noticed that like for other people, it was like a big 30 to 45-second delay. And I think it like, I think for viewers of Mixer, like the reliability of their app or whatever platform you were watching it on was very suspect. I feel like it was very suspect. Like
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people would be like, "Oh, I love your stream," but like I get disconnected or I just get buffered in the middle, and like I can't. Why it's just not very reliable. Um, do you miss Sparks though?
Well, so I'm still trying to wrap my head. Thanks for saying it because I was trying to remember the terminology, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around how does it compare to Twitch in terms of Sparks and
Right.
donations and bits and all of that kind of stuff. And I feel like Sparks was a pretty significant difference, or maybe I'm just missing something in Twitch, but like I guess I don't know. I kind of look at it as when I'm accruing channel points or whatever you call it
Yeah.
in Twitch, and I can actually cash that in against like perks that you've defined.
Right.
Like that's more engaging to me than Sparks, but Sparks you can earn by watching too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But you'd use them just to like give a sticker or like
Yeah.
or something like that. So like the payoff wasn't as good, but
Right.
like it just seemed like you'd use it more frequently because like you could buy like a 300 Spark sticker or something and it wouldn't take long to earn it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like the gap there like doesn't really hurt anything because on Twitch you've got just more engagement. Everything's driving more like engagement with the streamer. So
Right.
the
Well, and the channel points thing is interesting because so channel points came out in I think I was reading December 2019. Like again, I wasn't on Twitch. I would not
oh
even so look, like I got into streaming. I legitimately before I started getting into streaming, I watched two streamers. Two. Um it was never just a thing that I was like super interested in. Look, like we have jobs, we've got life, like I'm out here running half marathons every now and again. Like I just didn't have time to sit down and watch a lot of streamers, um, which as a streamer myself is like bad to say. I now like have a little bit more appreciation for all of it, and I sort of have a larger group of streamers that I watch. But all of that said, like channel points didn't come out until December 2019, so and you also can't get them unless you're an affiliate, I think. So
I was wondering about that. Yeah, because
yeah,
I don't see them all the time.
because when I came over, Sparks were a bit. I mean, you've been in Honolulu gamer stream since the beginning. Like interaction is a big part of the experience, and so losing Sparks, I think was actually like kind of a bigger deal for some of my audience at least, because also my audience was a lot of like Mixer only people or people that were less familiar with Twitch. So I feel like the loss of Sparks was a little bit of an initial shock. So I just
Yeah,
but then you get affiliate and then you get channel points and then you customize it and I think that's even better. So there's some things that are better, but man, how about that Mixer shutdown announcement coming out of nowhere? Do you
yeah,
remember when that news
dude,
dropped? Oh,
that blew my mind, man. Because like I mean, I my first thought was just like, it wasn't so much about like the news itself as like how like I'm just so fascinated with this idea that like how did this decision go down? Like how did this happen? And it seemed like such a surprise and it seemed like such a quick decision. And on top of that, not only was it like one of those things where you could say, oh, well, a lot of people knew, but they just didn't tell anybody. At the same time, it's like clearly like there was a change in a strategy because they had just invested so much money. So
Yes.
like if they knew that, like they would have to have known, if they had known back then, like surely they wouldn't have invested all of that money. So like the idea that it was a pretty quick decision was like pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it had to be a quick decision. I wonder too, like, so right because they paid Ninja millions of dollars. I think anywhere between 20 and 30. I think the exact figure actually ended up did coming out, but it was somewhere between 20 and 30 for like a 3-year exclusive deal. And that was summer 2019. I'm pretty sure. Like maybe right
I think
around,
it was, yeah,
yeah, like right around now, maybe last year, I feel.
yeah,
But coronavirus has got my sense of time all messed up. But so like obviously back then the plan was not that they were going to be shutting down anytime soon. They would never. That's not a deal any company would make if that was even in their thought process. Um, but I feel like probably what happened was they made a bunch of projections on growth that Ninja would bring, and then their projections were way off,
yeah,
and then it just never recovered. So they were just like, we're going to
yeah.
quickly pull the plug here. I just wonder too, like
That's the
it
thing.
just seems
Yeah.
like the whole, they didn't tell employees. A bunch of employees found out when the announcement went out. It just seemed like, from like an employee relations standpoint, that just it went awry pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, like in a community relations thing, because like
Right.
it's just interesting how it being Microsoft, like I guess just to one degree, it's like kind of impressive that the company's able to like just accept the sunk cost because they know the trajectory or whatever, and they're just like, yeah, like we're throwing away a lot of money, but if we don't, it's just gonna bleed to death
Right. It's
anyway.
just going to
So
be a
like,
money pit. We're going to sink more money and resources into it, and
yeah,
it'll
and
cost us
like
more in the long run. Yeah.
so many companies out there like wouldn't be capable of making that decision because
Right.
like,
Well, they wouldn't have the resources to make that
you know,
decision. They would have to try to make it work, like,
yeah, yeah,
or go
and
under. Right. That's just reality.
so like the idea that they can and did do that was kind of interesting in itself. But like the idea that the community and Microsoft, like if you just think about over the years, decades of all the ups and downs with Microsoft that everybody has had, I
Yes.
mean, they're just like you think about the Zune and the Windows Phone. We're
Well,
talking
Windows
about like
Phone
product
never
launches,
existed. Windows
and
Phone never
and
existed. So I
basically,
know what
and
you're
like
talking about.
so they do all this investment and stuff, and then they'll just cut ties or like move on. But like on the other hand, you have things like in the development community, they used to be like and known as kind of like the anti open source company. When now they're like open sourcing everything.
Right.
And like just today, I was looking at something that they had built and kind of relegated to the community, and they were like, this thing has been great for like 3 years, and now it's time for the community to take it over.
Right.
So like that improved their perception, and it seemed like they're deliberately trying to get a better like perception in certain communities like the development community. But like when it comes to products and stuff, it's just crazy how they'll just drop something, like they'll get like rabid support, like or even pay for the support, like in the case of Mixer,
Right.
and like they'll have a community behind it, and then they just abandon the community. It's like how many times can you do that?
Right. Well, I
you
mean,
know
how many initiatives has Google shuttered too? I mean,
yeah.
I feel like Google does a similar. I feel like it's worse at Google, but maybe that's because I've used more Google products in the past, and so I've like felt it more. Maybe. But I don't know. Like, is that exclusive to like? Is that a big tech thing? Like, I'm not super close. Like, I don't follow tech or development or anything, any of these larger companies all that closely. I mean, is it like a unique to Microsoft and Google thing? Do they just do it at a much higher rate than other companies?
I think like with Google, it's more of like you kind of know as a consumer, like you're paying for everything with your data
Right.
and like or your privacy and your lack of. So like there's no real like guarantee that you're gonna maintain access to anything you use from there. And like they've done better over the years. I think like with the Google Play Music shutdown, they've been warning about that for like 3 years, and then finally, like just now, they're forcing migrations over to YouTube Music. But they made sure that like there was actually a path. Although that's in part because people bought music, and like you can't just
Yeah,
take it
yeah,
away
yeah,
from them.
yeah. Yes.
But like but at least like that's an experience where you feel like they're trying to give you a path, even
Right.
if they're taking something away. But like with Microsoft, I don't know. I feel like you said, it's almost like the company's so big they can afford to cut stuff
Yeah.
and like change directions. But yeah, it is interesting because you have something like Xbox though, which obviously like it's a successful piece of their business, but like they that got over whatever hump, and it's like what's the hump that these other things would have had to have gotten over
Right.
in order to turn into like an Xbox where
Right.
like the like everybody's using a Zoom phone now or something. Like
Right.
that could have happened.
Sure. Yeah.
Like or like if they had really partnered with Android on Windows Phone, or if they had brokered Nokia and Android to get together when Android was so promising. Nokia was the largest phone company in the world, and Microsoft wanted a foothold in the mobile business. Like they could have all teamed up and created something great. And
Right.
instead, Nokia is like pretty much completely dead except for their patents. And
Right.
Microsoft isn't even in the smartphone business.
Right.
So
Right.
it's crazy. Like but yeah, they do. I don't know. I have to say I appreciate the fact that they go for it sometimes. Like the fact they even tried to invest in Mixer and stuff. Yeah, it's just like, but it's just hard to get. It's hard to be a fan or like invested from
Right.
like a brand of loyalty standpoint when you feel like you're like gonna go all in on it, get all your friends on it, buy the merch and like get all behind
Yeah.
the brand,
Yeah.
and then they just like rip the rug out from under you.
Yeah, like poor,
So like,
poor Rickman goes on Mixer Shop and sees that their shirt is like on 50% sale. Buys the shirt literally,
oh
I
man,
think the day before the shutdown was announced. I'm gonna have to ask. We'll have Rickman on one of these. I'm gonna have to ask Rickman about his shirt experience. I wonder if he still has it or if he burnt it in a fit of rage. But look, we got two more Subaru questions. Let's get into the next one, and then I want to talk a bit about wrestling. Um, so I looked this one up. I don't actually, and by the way, all of these that I looked up had like 4 multiple choice answers. You don't get multiple choice answers because you're the
oh,
expert. But I don't even know what like this word, like the answer means. I have no idea. So for all I know, they could have just gibberish. Okay. But what type of engines do Subarus use?
well, it's a flat four or boxer depending on the
They went with Boxer.
technology.
They went with Boxer. So
Boxer.
ding ding ding. Sagel 4 for 4. Okay, I want to talk about wrestling for a little bit. I actually want to talk about so one of your good friends. You told me about this. One of your good friends. As soon as Alexa Bliss, who is one of your favorites, went on Cameo, one of your good friends had to purchase you a cameo of Alexa Bliss. I just want you to talk about a little bit what it was like to get. I've never received a cameo, but what was it like to get a cameo from someone who, like, I could just imagine this is somebody who you're a big fan of. This isn't like,
Yeah, yeah,
a local weatherman down the street. This is like a big deal. What was that like?
yeah. Oh man, yeah, that's funny you bring that up because that yeah, that's still something that kind of blows my mind. It wasn't that long ago, and now knowing WWE's kind of cracking down more on how much these wrestlers can do out in the public space like that, maybe that opportunity won't be around. But yeah, so like I had a little bit of experience with Cameo, like when I first learned about it, I was like, who's on this? Like, what
Yeah,
what could you do on this? Like,
right.
and you're like, oh, I'd like so and so to send a message to so and so on their birthday or whatever. It's like that'd be cool, but some of them are super expensive and some of them are like unavailable or like they do really crappy cameos. So
Yeah,
like,
I've looked at some cameos. We're not going to call anybody out here, but there's some former
yeah, yeah,
wrestlers. Maybe one who owns a Shoney's, I believe is the name of the fast food place
it used
in
to, it used to.
sorry, it used to own a Shoney's in Georgia, who does not
Rest
do
in
the
peace.
greatest. Does not do the greatest. What do you mean rest in peace?
The Shoney's went out of business because
Oh,
of
okay.
COVID.
I thought you were RIPing the guy who,
Oh no
again,
no
we're
no
not going
no.
to call him out because, by the way, if we did call him out and he saw this, he would come at like he's kind of insane. So I'm like nervous.
Yeah, he might show up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm nervous. But anyway, he does not
we
do
don't
the
say
good
his name.
cameos. But anyway,
So
to your point.
like when my mind was racing and like what can I do and when's the next opportunity, I had a friend whose birthday was coming up, and I was like, all right, like this friend of mine likes wrestling, he likes football, and it happens to be that I saw Jonathan Coachman on Cameo.
Yes.
And that guy, he just seems like a super nice guy. I think he was like donating his Cameo funds to like a nonprofit or something. And like my friend used to always like when it comes to wrestling theme songs, he used to like Jonathan Coachman's theme song a lot. So I was like,
Yes.
like he would always get excited when he came out on screen or whatever, or like you go to a live event and the announcers walk out and they play their song and stuff. My friend would always go nuts for it. So like I'm like, this is perfect. And Jonathan Coachman was charging $25, and I had like a 20% off coupon or something. And I'm like, yeah, like no brainer. So I do it. It turned out to be a great experience, and like super impressed with how he came through on it. Um, but then I saw Alexa Bliss comes on, and I'm like, wow, like that's pretty cool to think like you could actually get a message from Alexa Bliss. And
Yes.
um like in years past, I had been to a WrestleMania and went to like the Access show, and she was there, and I was like too like nervous to like wait in line and meet her, and like so instead I kind of go around the side and like take a selfie with like her in the background,
No,
and
that's
I
a
like walk away.
Sagel.
Like
That's a creepy thing. But
yeah,
your heart was in a
in
good. You,
retrospect,
yeah. Well, you weren't doing it because you were creepy. Like you weren't doing it because you're like some creepy dude. You were doing it because you were too nervous. But isn't Access like it's a fan event? Was she was doing like
it
legitimate
is.
signing, right?
Yeah,
Like you would get in line. It's part of
yeah,
an expectation that she would be signing for like that would have been a normal thing.
yeah.
Too nervous. I understand. Starstruck
Too
couldn't do
nervous.
it. Couldn't do it. Yeah.
I
If
can't
you saw
handle the
Alexa Bliss in
pressure.
the airport, you would not have approached her and said
Oh,
congratulations
that's a
on
good
winning children.
question.
You would have been too afraid. So
Well, the
I
thing
just
was, Miz had the open door because he had won the U.S. title, and I had that as an icebreaker.
right.
And if Alexa Bliss had, if she had won a title, and I could have used that as an icebreaker,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, but like no, I ended up actually meeting the Godfather and took a picture with him, and I
Yeah.
wasn't nervous about that.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a different tier. I feel. But so so
Um,
you got the video of
so
Alexa Bliss.
yeah, so like my friend who sends this video to me, he's like, I mean, he's a good friend. He's like supportive, and he's like always cheering me up, paying attention to what's on my mind and stuff. And like he's one day he sends a message or like calls me or something. He's like, "Hey, check your email," and I'm like, "What?" And it's like the middle of the workday,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I see in my inbox like there's a message from him, and I'm like, "Oh man, he sent me like a cheer me up email. I'm gonna read this, and it's gonna be like telling me I'm a good guy and all this stuff and make me happy." And I'm like opening the email, and there's like I think it was an attachment or a link or however it was in there. And it was to a video, and I was like, "Oh, what's this?" And so like I'm on the phone, and my friend's like, "Stay on the phone, stay on the phone. I'm gonna see your reaction."
Yeah.
So like I opened the video up, and I had no idea it could ever have been the Alexa Bliss cameo. It's like I chatted with my buddy about it, and like it was a lot of money. It's an expensive thing, and it's like I would have never guessed
Yeah.
that would even be in the realm of possibilities. So like my friend had bought the cameo from Alexa Bliss, and again, kind of like Jonathan Coachman, like she turned out to be good at it.
Yeah.
So like he jammed in a bunch of talking points in whatever 250 characters or whatever it is, and she like talked to me through a video almost like she kind of knew me. So
Yeah.
like that was pretty crazy. And yeah, it's like the nerve factor isn't there because like it's a one-way communication.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
and I could like watch it back anytime. So like
Right. Right.
uh that was a pretty awesome experience. So big thanks
So
for that one.
the man, so many interesting directions we could take this wrestling conversation. But look, you're a bigger. I think you might be a bigger wrestling fan than myself. Partially because I don't have like the means to watch Raw every week and AEW every week. I just like I don't have cable, right? So I don't have those channels. So
Right.
it's difficult when like all I can do is follow along on clips or like just read the results. Like there's a certain level of like separation from the actual product in the experience, I think. So for me, it's a little bit more difficult. But um, man, what do you think? I saw AEW just went over 1 million, 1 million in the ratings. You think this is going to be a legitimate competition sometime soon between the WWE and AEW?
Man, yeah, right now is a kind of interesting turning point in there, and yeah, I definitely watch it more as a fan. I'm really obsessed about like what goes on behind the scenes and how it all works and whatnot. But I think that you keep better bearings on that because like sometimes I'll like try and engage you on like a current event in wrestling, and you kind of make it clear that I'm just being a mark and like it's obvious that like they're doing this or they're doing that, and it's like because you look at it like from that kind of perspective better than I do. I get blinded by the light.
Yes.
So like and honestly like I've been all in on, well, no pun intended, been all in on AEW
Yeah.
from the beginning and been to a few of the shows and stuff, and like they had a lot of steam, broke a million before COVID,
Right.
and but like WWE came in with this NXT head to head thing, and everybody's theory is like they're, like doing it more to take away from AEW than they are to like try and compete. Um, but it turned into kind of a competition, and like AEW was always a little bit ahead, but like they just changed schedule. So NXT's on Tuesday as of this past week, I think,
Oh,
and
okay.
AEW's on Wednesday. So like
That's a permanent
they're
change?
both indefinitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
So I think both of them had an increase in ratings. So like now NXT is like
Right.
where AEW was hovering, and now AEW is like higher than they were hovering. So
Right, because they were
yeah,
cannibalized. I
overall,
mean, they were stealing each other's audience, right?
yeah,
So you move NXT. So I mean,
yeah,
WWE's strategy. I mean, so they move NXT, they boost the NXT ratings, get more ad dollars, ad revenue for the ratings, whatever. But then also inadvertently help AEW. But I wonder if they probably don't see AEW as a large enough threat, and they probably never will because I don't know that AEW would ever have the global presence
well,
that
that's the
the
thing that's
WWE
so
has.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, from a rating standpoint, you've got like there's times where AEW has gotten a higher viewership than times that Raw has gotten.
Right.
So I think recently Raw might have been in like 1.1 million range or something, and that's where AEW was this week. So it's like crazy to think about that. But also we're in like the COVID era and like everything's messed up. The uh, but the idea is like you can look at it based off ratings. That's one thing, but then also like the the monetization streams, like you said, like I mean WWE is so far ahead. They're a public company first of all, and then they've got like the global distribution, and they've got all these different channels of revenue coming in, the network and the
Yep.
merchandise and the all this kind of licensing that they've got out there. And AEW on the other hand is, I mean, they're still like using ProWrestlingTees.com to sell their t-shirts.
Are
So
they
like
really still?
they're
Wow, interesting.
like they've got a custom branded domain, but like that's how it works. So like
Right.
you know uh they're not mature in as far as their business you know kind of diversification like WWE is. So that would always be hard to compete on if you're talking about like overall revenue or like them becoming a public company or whatever. But like I think we're like it's like two extremes. Like you can compare revenue, which like WWE would blow them out of the water, or you can compare ratings where they're kind of like neck and neck
Right.
in some cases, or in the middle where I think it's like more tangible. It's like you've got the real world effect is you have guys and girls who are in WWE and are actually wanting to go to AEW,
Right.
or who have gotten released by WWE and go to AEW. So WWE for like the last few years has had a stranglehold on the wrestling market as far as wrestlers go. I mean, they were just hiring everybody, like
Yeah.
up and down the chain, and like putting them in all these kind of like affiliate promotions and stuff, like basically controlling the talent. And then COVID hit, and they like let go a bunch of people. So you have guys like FTR who are like were hoping and praying for a release, and they finally got it. And then like because it was so hard and unheard of to get a release because they're holding on to everybody. And next thing you know, WWE goes and releases a ton of people. So like
Right.
now all these people get their so-called freedom, and the wrestlers just want to work in AEW because it's like there's more freedom for creativity and collaboration, and it's not as kind of produced, you know. So
And you don't
like
hear, you know what's interesting? So I totally forgot that there is this, you do hear a lot about like former stars or even some current stars. They want to go AEW. Have you actually heard of anybody wanting to do the like go the opposite? I have not heard anybody say they want to go from AEW to WWE.
Man, that's an interesting question. Yeah, and I kept thinking it's more like because it's a honeymoon phase,
Right.
and like they have their own podcast. So like on that podcast, everybody's always like talking about how great it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're not going to
But
say
like
anything
I
bad.
think, and but I think that like everybody's truly in that mindset right now. So like I don't know, like if that's gonna change. Like at what point does it become the grass is greener on the other side? Like that always happens, you know.
Yeah,
Like
it's got to
you get a
happen,
new
right?
job, or you align with a certain school or whatever, and it's like you're all about it, and eventually it's like, you know what, like maybe it's better on the other side.
Because I
And
mean, you're going to have guys who think they're being held down in AEW, right? That's just
yeah,
naturally going to happen. It's egos, and they're going to think, well, if I just had the bigger platform, the bigger global platform, like I could be the next Stone Cold Steve Austin, like whatever. People think that stuff, but I think also, but AEW, I think, do they not, they treat their wrestlers better? I would,
well,
it seems.
overall I think that's the perception, and in a lot of ways, I mean, it's just manifested because they get like talking points and not scripts, and they get control over their own character outside of AEW. So like they can go wrestle on independence if they want to and stuff like that. Um, and the flexibility, it's more like you kind of think as a fan, you want to be a wrestler, like you're thinking, oh, I want to be the character. And like in WWE, it's way more like you're playing the character.
Right,
And in AEW, it's more like, yeah, you're playing the character, but like at the same time, it's your character. It's
right,
not like you're showing up to work and you're playing the role that somebody gave you.
right.
And it's more like you cultivate this character yourself. Like you bring it to AEW or you develop it there, and like you can take it elsewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
So like I think a lot of the wrestlers like that, but it is an interesting concept because I think the core difference is like AEW is about developing the talent, and like you got a lot of guys like Luchasaurus or Darby Allin who like were pretty much unknown, or Orange Cassidy, like they're independent guys maybe, but like pretty much unknown to like the WWE audience, and those characters have been developed and like invested in AEW, whereas in WWE, like they've for 5 years at least now, they're like in this mode where they don't build anybody. It's like they purposefully try to like kind of keep people on an even field or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
even at the top, it's like
Yeah,
you'll
yeah.
see all the potential, and then like somebody just kind of gets held back, or like they get a change made to their character that
Right.
like kind of resets them or something. So like it's more about the company than a character. And
Yeah.
on AEW, it's like everybody likes the company, but it's because they're investing in the characters.
Right.
So
You
I don't know.
know,
It's kind of, it might be a subtle difference, but I think it's a major one.
I mean, in an industry like this, you want creative control over what you're playing because when you it's your, I mean, you brought it up when you get into wrestling, it's because you want to do a certain thing. You want to be a certain character. And in
Yeah.
the WWE, like I mean, back in the day, right? I mean, wrestlers talk about this all the time. They were given much more free reign than they're given now. I feel like, they're a public company now. They've got everything's been sort of sterilized in a way where no star is going to become bigger than the company. I mean, even look at this is the Winged Eagle Championship. That's the Big Eagle Championship. We got the new lighting. I love that. Right. Oh,
It's
so
not
good.
helping.
But we got all these championships. I mean, the WWE logo on those championships is just a tiny piece of it. Nowadays, the
Yeah.
championship is just a big WWE
Is the
logo.
logo. That's all it is.
And,
Yeah.
and so that tells you everything you need to know about like the company's priorities because even the championship is just about the company's logo. So, all right, look, I'm going to get you out of here in a couple of minutes. Let's ask you this final question from the Subaru.
Well, like the sun is like setting in my own house or something. So like I don't know why it's like I've been getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer as we go. So I'm
Yeah.
just gonna fade out if we
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
talking.
no, it's all good. Look, these are, I try to keep these to around an hour, so we're good. You're 4-4. Part of Subaru is owned by which other automaker?
Oh man, I can't keep up with this stuff.
Come
Um,
on.
Toyota.
You got it. 5 for 5 on the Subaru. Let's go. I love that. All right, look.
Man, you asked the modern questions too, like the post
Hey,
fandom
hey,
questions for me.
I can only I look, I wasn't going to spend an hour, okay, deep diving into Subaru history, okay? I Google Subaru trivia. I hit a first couple links. I found some questions that I thought were interesting, and that's it. Easy peasy.
Good ones.
So
Good ones.
here's one thing I want to ask you about, and then we'll get you out on this. But I want to go back to wrestling for 1 second. Two questions actually. One wrestling related, one streaming related. Um, do you think the WWE should put the championship back on Jinder Mahal so he can go back to India and become a hero, and they can capture the India market?
Dude, when was it that they did that? Like 2016
Yeah,
or
feels
17?
about there. Feels about 16, 17, yeah.
So I have to ask myself, like, how did I feel then? And I was really excited then. I was like, this is great. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
It's like different.
Yeah.
And like, it gives you something to invest in. And it's a talking point to potentially get non-fans interested. 'Cause
Right.
it's like, this isn't the kind of guy you imagine as a non-wrestling fan. Like, you're thinking Hulk Hogan, like jacked up meathead guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jinder Mahal got jacked.
Right.
But like, the whole dynamic is like, no, this guy proves that this is like a global company,
Right.
and that they're like trying to make the champion look like um it like not the cookie cutter Hulk Hogan Ultimate
Right.
Warrior style champion that people might remember from the days that they got disillusioned by finding out it was fake and
Right.
quitting watching wrestling. So like it's like the people who are still bitter because they thought they were being tricked or something.
Right.
Like that's like their frame of reference. It's like locked in like 80s wrestling, and it's like, no, this is kind of like proof we're in the future,
Right.
and like there's other ways to go about this, like other angles.
Yeah.
So
All right.
yeah.
Last one. I'm curious. I don't think I've ever asked anybody this, but I was wondering about this while we were streaming. What has been your favorite Honolulu gamer stream? Because as you know, like I mean, we've got the normal things. I've had a variety of games. You have Monster Rancher 2 in there. That was a memorable one. We've had Yu-Gi-Oh in there, but then we also have the community celebrations, right? Where it's all about just like giving back to you guys and hanging out with the community. So do you have one that sticks out if you had to pick?
Oh man. Well, I want to say, I mean, the ones that come to mind right away. You got the scare stream, of course, but like that's like a memorable. That's like in wrestling terms, that's like a pay-per-view you never forget. It might not be your favorite episode, but it's like you're gonna remember that one. And it's like you don't want every episode to be like that. Like a favorite, it should be like, here's my favorite. Like I want more of this. Whereas it's like there's special ones and there's like, this is the gold standard. And like, but then on like the first episode, you've got you coined a lot of your phrases, I think, on that first episode of like your like HG isms.
Yes.
Like
yes.
like that came in quick, and
Yeah.
it's like a piece of history almost. Like I guess with it being Mixer, probably can't really even go back to that, but
Right.
like
Yeah.
I remember it at least. So like that episode I remember was good, and I have to say the unboxing of the Winged Eagle, that was a fun one.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course, that would be your favorite. All right. Look, I could talk to you forever. We'll have to do this again. But I want everybody to know you're watching this on YouTube, but Honolulu Gamer streams over on Twitch. All that information is on my page. But also, you need to go follow Sagel over on Twitch as well, because you never know when Sagel's going to go live. You might see some top tier Rocket League play. You might see some top tier Need for Speed play. He's the best Need for Speed player in the world. So we already know. Sagel, thank you so much for your time, and let's do this again.
Thanks, HG. Good to be on with you.